Rowling. It's Rowling.
Rowling. Sorry.
It's all right.
That's a good start.
The single idea was Harry, this boy who didn't know he was a wizard, who for 11 years had made very odd stuff happen, that there was plainly mystery about him, but he didn't know what it was, and that then he got the letter that told him he had a place at wizard school. And I just thought it would be a lot of fun to write. Harry is one of my favourite boys' names. Potter was actually the name of a family I used to play with when I was very small. I doubt that they'd remember me, but I just like their surname. So that's where that came from. People have asked me if it was Dennis Potter, because I come from the Forest of Dean, but it wasn't. I just think of it as the kind of place that most children, I would love to go. It's scary and it's exciting, and you are relieved of responsibilities to your parents or authority from your parents. I didn't go to a boarding school, I went to a comprehensive. And the idea of getting into this place that is so exciting and living there among your peers, it's just enthralling, I think. So, the fact that it's a boarding school is important in plot terms because Harry has to be removed from this appalling family that he's been brought up with, this very suburban, abusive family. And he is removed to this place that is much scarier but much more fun. A lot of the humour for me comes from this conflict between this magical, very subversive world and the workaday world, where people simply refuse to see what's right under their noses, which is that there are still wizards living everywhere, but in secret. Well, it amused me. Sorry. Okay, get a grip, right. I thought it was funny.
How did you dream up Quidditch?
Oh, Quidditch. Well, working along the same sort of twisted logic that if they were living in secret all over the world, they are not going to support football or golf, the most boring game in existence. They're clearly going to have their own sport. And so I made up a sport that I just thought would be amusing. 4 balls, 7 aside on broomsticks, very dangerous and very violent, and I would be rubbish at it. If it existed. I'm very uncoordinated, but I just thought the idea appealed to me. Most of the kids that I meet, they love the idea of Quidditch. In fact, they really love it. I think because of the violent aspect. You have to be very careful about giving me your name if you have an unusual name, because almost for sure you will find yourself 2 books down the line popping up at Hogwarts. Yeah.
Give us some of the names you've used in the book rather than me mentioning.
Some of them, Dumbledore is Old English for Bumblebee, because he's the headmaster of the school, and that's because he likes music, and I imagine him sort of humming to himself a lot. That's where that came from. Also, I just like the name Dumbledore. It's got a nice ring to it. Some of the names that have a reason for some of them were street names and things, odd things. A couple came from books of saints, names like Bathilda and Hedwig, just excellent witchy names. That's quite blasphemous now I think of it, but never mind. And there are a few names, but I have to be very careful of people I've met and used. I have to be careful, I don't want to be sued. Can't tell you, can't.
You love alliteration, clearly.
Yeah, well I have this a lot of incidental characters have, alliteration is important, just it's easier for children to remember, I think, you know.
Daedalus Diggle.
Yeah, Daedalus Diggle, I like that. I like that one.
Piers Polkiss.
Yeah, Piers Polkiss. It's a bit unfortunate really, because I tend to choose, someone said to me recently, I wanted to call my son Neville and I can't now because I give the name Neville to someone who's a bit hopeless in the book, although I like him very much. But what can you do? You can't please everyone. Trying to hide my gender, definitely. They thought it was a book that would appeal to boys, and they thought possibly if they saw Joanne on the front cover, they wouldn't pick it up.
So have some of your readers been surprised?
Yeah, in the right after the book was published, I started getting letters, Dear Sir, but then the whole thing was blown completely out of the water because I went on Blue Peter and plainly wasn't a Sir, so what was the point, really? My absolute ambition was to be able to walk into a bookshop and see it on the bookshelf. Having said that, now I stand back from it, yes, I do think it would make a good film because there's a lot of action in it, and I can see that some of it would work very well visually. It was turned down by 3 publishers before Bloomsbury, which actually isn't that many at all, but one of them kept me hanging around for about a year, saying we might, we don't know, and that was bad for my nerves, and it made it feel far more difficult than it probably was. I was very lucky. I got the second agent I approached took me on, so that was the big break. that was the biggest break, that I was taken on by a very good agent, Christopher Little, and it was then up to him to take it round to publishers, which again saves your nerves. I wasn't the one who had it thumping back onto my doormat every morning. My ultimate dream, obviously, was to be able to write full time, but I knew how few children's writers managed to make a living wage out of it, so I wasn't under any illusions.
So had you started the second Harry Potter book?
Yeah, but it was going pretty slowly, because by this time, I'm studying full time. I'm obviously still looking after my daughter, and writing time was pretty thin on the ground at that point. I got a phone call saying, telling me that Scholastic had won the auction, and for a 6-figure amount. And instead of feeling, as you would have expected, wildly happy, I felt utter terror. Because I'd nearly finished book 2 at this point, and suddenly I couldn't write. I just thought, the stakes had been up so much. I thought book 2 was now going to be a horrible letdown to everyone, and every word had to be worth a certain amount of dollars, and I found it very scary.
Well, because the expectation has just grown.
Yeah, absolutely. From being absolutely, totally obscure, where I was really quite happy, and just writing purely for me, suddenly I felt as though about 100 people were looking over my shoulder every time I set pen to paper, and it was a very weird experience. I'm not being ungrateful. I am now. I couldn't be happier now. But that's because I've now finished book 2 and I'm happy with it. But for a month or so, I just felt terrified.
Did you know when you were writing book 2 that Harry Potter would continue?
Yeah, I'd always, almost from the start, I'd envisaged it as a 7-book series, which would see him through wizard school, and then he'd be a fully qualified wizard at the end of it. That's the sort of big story, how you qualify as a wizard, you see. And there is another bigger plot that's going on that I can't really talk about because it will ruin it for people who will read all the books. A lot of the publicity had focused on the fact that I was a single mother and that I had written in cafes, and that's perfectly true, and it's interesting. I can see why that's a good story. But winning with Smarties meant that, and by the way, the book might be all right as well. So that meant quite a lot to me. They want to know why I call non-magic people muggles very often, because they like the word, they think it's funny. And that comes from mugs, obviously. And it's a dream to wake up in the morning and think, what am I doing today? I'm writing, and I'm getting paid for it. This is the dream of my life. But I make it hard work for myself. I rewrite endlessly. Sometimes, I spend, I don't know about everyone, but I spend an entire day staring at a piece of paper, and you come away with 3 lines of writing. Other days, I can write 2,000 words, 3,000 words, and be happy with most of it. Probably the most difficult part of it is you never can tell when inspiration is going to strike. So.
Did you write on a computer or what?
No, I still write longhand. It's partly superstitious, I think. It worked for me twice, writing everything out in longhand and then typing it up, so I don't want to break the winning formula. Harry Potter came to me on a train in 1990. I was sitting just staring out of the window, and the idea just fell out of nowhere. It was the purest stroke of inspiration I've ever had in my life. My most far-fetched dream was a kind review in a decent newspaper, and the idea that I would be able to maybe teach part-time and write part-time. And I thought but to me it seemed like this huge hurdle even getting published, which indeed it is. It's not that easy. So I didn't really look much past that. So everything that's happened since has been well beyond my wildest expectations. It really has. I still sometimes can't quite believe it's happened.